If I could change one thing in the world, if I could change one thing about the world, we'd all smile and say hello, hold doors for each other, give what we could in time. Curiosity, truth, and wonder would become who we really are. Waiting for the world to change. Well, a lot of us could sit down and wait, and in waiting, get nothing done. Welcome back. This is Sandra Hart. I'm so glad you joined me today. I was off for a week because visiting in Traverse City with my son, and now I'm coming back here to Nashville. I kind of had to stop and take a breath so that I could reorganize myself and get going again. So thank you for being so patient and waiting on me for being absent last week. I'm going to ask you a question. If you could change the world, what one thing would it be? I think that's a really loaded question, a very powerful question, because a lot of us sit back and we complain and we say, oh, isn't it awful? Isn't it terrible? But we don't realize that maybe individually we have the power in our own little circle, in our own little world, to change it. But if you had the power to change the world beyond your life, what one thing would it be? Well, for me, I think I would like to see more empathy, more kindness, more caring for one another. I would like to see more understanding of our differences, more acceptance of our differences, so that if I could change the world, that would probably be the most important thing that I would do. I would also like to change the stigma and the ignorance and the mentality of mental illness and how people think of mental illness and addiction. Both of those things, today I think people are more enlightened, but I think we have so many troubles in the world today with violence because mental illness is not addressed. They're ashamed, people that have someone that they know maybe has a problem in their family, or they're not able to get to agencies to get help. Mental illness is growing in our country, at least in the United States. And I think if I could change the mechanism for treatment, for help, and take away the stigma of people who are addicted or people who have mental illness so that they could get better help. The reason I'm thinking about this today is that my son had a dinner party the other night with people from all walks of life, musicians, people that work in the tech business, neighbors, some retired people. And the conversation started getting around about what was happening in the world, and a lot of people are depressed and they just are thinking, well, where is the world that I grew up in when I was young? I know I've asked that question myself, and I know my children have asked that question. Mother, what happened to the world that I lived in when I was growing up? The 70s, the 80s, and I was growing up in the 50s, which I think was probably the most wonderful time to be growing up, the freedom and the safety that I felt. So people started talking about that, and they were just exchanging ideas. And one man said, I wish we could get rid of feminism. And everybody looked at him. They said, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, I wish that we would look at women, not physically, because the physiology, of course, is so different, but I wish we could look at women as equals. I wish we could look at them for their power, for their intelligence, for the way they have raised generations of children to be successful. He said, I wish we could just get rid of all this feminism stuff and just be equal in the eyes of others so that women could be respected for what they do and who they are. And I thought that was pretty cool, that a man would come to that conclusion. I know his wife was clapping next to him. She says, awesome. And I think that's a wonderful thing too. And on that vein, someone else said that they would like to, throughout the world, be able to empower and educate women in all cultures and all societies. Because we do know the reality is that there are certain cultures that do not give the women the freedom that some of us have to be educated, to be able to go about and do what they have to do during the day. And they are looked upon maybe like a second-class citizen. And it would be so nice to be able to empower all women to be equal. Someone else said, and this fellow is a scientist, he said, you know, I wish we could be astonished by our planet, by the beauty of everything around us. And isn't it true? All of us are so busy. We leave the house, we get in the car, we drive to wherever we're going to go, we get in the car again and drive back home. Very few of us are able to sit down and really embrace and drink in the wonder of the universe around us. For instance, I'm sitting here on a porch overlooking the Nashville Trace. I see beautiful fir trees. I see bees buzzing around and the wind ruffling the leaves a little bit, listening to the sound of dogs barking in the distance. Just breathing in the universe, breathing in the planet Earth and all the wonders. At night, when I'm in Florida, I go up in my garden and I look up and I see all the stars and the planet. And it's just amazing that there are millions and maybe billions of stars out there that we will never ever visit, but they're there and they are a part of our universe. So I really think that he gave a terrific answer, that maybe a lot of us should just stop and smell the roses a little bit more each day if we can. And I think that would change the world. I really do. Someone else said, you know, if I could change the world with one thing, I would add kindness to everyone in their everyday lives. And we talk about that, don't we? Being kind to ourselves, being kind to one another, because it's like a snowball. It's like osmosis. If you are kind to someone else and you make their day, that kindness and that person will give to someone else. And it's just a wonderful chain, like the link chains that we used to make in kindergarten with colored paper, construction paper, linking all the chains together. Well, that would link the kindness to one another. There are so many things that we could do. So I want to ask you now, would you think about that if you had the power to change the world in one way, what would you do? And then put your answer down below. And I think it'd be very interesting to see what all of us maybe, if we really think about it, what one thing would we change instead of sitting back and waiting for the world to change. We would have the power by doing one thing to make a big change in the world. Thank you for being here, and if you haven't subscribed, I do hope that you will subscribe and give our community a stronger voice, because I think in some small way, and I know that we women and men in my bag of marbles in this community will be able to be a stronger voice the more people that we have, because I want to make sure that we all can make a change in some small way. Please be good to yourself today. Be kind to whomever crosses your path. Of course, pray for peace. Share the love. And I want you to know, wherever you are in the world, you are never alone, because you are truly, truly loved. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you again from Nashville on next Tuesday. Take care.